IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
Hello and welcome to Simblified, the show where we talk about some things, we explain some things, and learn some things at the same time, where everything else is collateral damage.
Wow, in a way, Srikeit, what you're saying is that our podcast provides many functions. You can call it a super podcast.
Wow, okay. Wow.
It's the worst segue. The worst
Not at all a stretch at all.
No, you were about to say something. Please carry on.
No, that's all. We have our ups and downs with our episodes as well as the amount we research about stuff. But we will leave you entertained, hopefully.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good.
So that's where today we shall move on. And Chuck has a very interesting aspect for us. But before we move ahead, our topic today is such that it has forced the recusal of one of our podcast hosts. So Tony is conspicuously absent. Not for the lack of him trying to come on. Yeah. He has been unceremoniously booted out because we are talking about something which is linked to his employer. And that is Chuck. Go on.
I'm not Tony's employer. I told you many times. Oh, wait. This is the problem with the English
to Tony's
language.
Employer. And that's why he's recusing himself. And the topic, therefore, is Chuck.
We are basically talking about the Tata Superapp and the Tata Neo, which came out a couple of weeks back. Now, see, everyone has had their hot takes on the Tata Superapp. And this is going to be no different. We are also going to give our thoughts on what this thing is. Does it need to exist? All that sort of thing. But first, I actually have a question for you, Srikeit, because you spent a lot of time in Malaysia, which is a but Southeast Asia generally has a lot of super apps. I think what you should do, which I failed to do, is actually just say what a super app is and then jump into things like Gojek and all that.
We right now live in the era of where apps begin with one thing and then migrate into doing pretty much everything. That's basically what a super app begins to be. Like, I'm assuming what Tata began with steel, right?
Yes, I think so.
Technically, it was opium trade, but let's go with steel.
So, Tata in maybe the last century began with steel and slowly and gradually has migrated into a whole bunch of different functions, which is similar of many other companies. Like, you can talk about an ITC, you can talk about many different companies who sold someone
Reliance.
Even when you come to the tech side, Sony, Apple, all of these things started off with like one obscure sub-function, and now nobody even remembers what their sub-function area was, where they started.
Samsung was a grocery store when it started.
Samsung being a grocery store. Sony was famous for its Walkman, which you will now find in museums.
Casio's first hit product. This is crazy. And this is a very Japanese thing. Casio's first hit product was a ring that could hold a cigarette. And it was extremely popular in post-war Japan that was high on cigarettes.
Amazing.
I found that absolutely fascinating. And then they realized that, people need to do accounting in offices. So let's create a calculator. It was a fascinating story. All of these things you can hear on the Origin of Things, by the way.
The thing is, as times have gone and a lot of these companies which have been very successful in their core businesses have kind of migrated to a lot of different businesses and therefore kind of built now try to consolidate all of their functions under a single app, which was because now smartphone is the window with which you can interact with most customers, or it's the most lucrative growth medium. And that's where, from my experience and where I came from, Malaysia or Southeast Asia as such. So while Gojek was still picking up steam, so Gojek is more popular in Indonesia, but Grab was the biggest super app in Malaysia at that time.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I was actually there in the duration. My duration in Malaysia was where Grab initially was just the cab hailing service, right? And it had just introduced at that time a Grab Pay, which was the payment service, which was corollary just to its cab hailing service. And over that time, they started including a courier service, a mart service, which they connected to local supermarkets and stuff. And over that period of time, they started becoming like this super app. And it was actually interesting because, I mean, from a marketing and branding point of view, they actually had a very flexible vision right up front, very presciently put down. Like when I studied the Grab vision, from the very inception, their vision was moving Southeast Asia forward, right?
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't just point A to point B, cab hailing or whatever. That right from the get-go was their vision. And that actually is something that they continue to use because all of their functions still continue to be true to that particular vision that they had. And so the Grab super app, and compared to a lot of other super apps that we have in India, we have multiple apps that kind of have their own ecosystem in multiple ways. There isn't really one big super app that rules over everything. There's a healthy competition pretty much.
Yeah.
But in Malaysia, that competition is over. Grab won it. Right. And there is no other app that matches that universal ecosystem, and so much so that they have an absolute monopoly in that space.
Yeah. So a couple of things on super apps by themselves. They are not necessarily something to aspire towards. I think it completely depends on the model and all that. I don't know if companies, when they start out, they say, oh, we are going to be a super app someday, because it involves so many different functions coming in together. And while Srikeit did use the example of a traditional company like Tata Steel diversifying into lots of other, divisions like Tata Motors or whatever, even the recent acquisitions like Cult and Big Basket and all that. It's not just a matter of putting all of them together on a corporate brochure and saying, hey, look, Deco, our company, which is kind of like what Tata Neu seems to me, but we'll come to that criticism later. Successful super apps, if you think about it, there are very few around the world. The biggest possibly being WeChat in China, WeChat and Alipay to some extent in China. And of course, you have Gojek and Grab in Southeast Asia. Gojek mostly in Indonesia, and we just recently had a pretty spectacular IPO as well. All of these apps, right, they started off with one service. In the case of WeChat, it would be, chatting. In the case of Alipay, it would be financial services, which is kind of like what you can call it a subsidiary of sorts. In India, Paytm is trying to do, starting off with finances and moving off to other services. And Gojek started off as a courier service or, using the riders and then building on top of that. So all of these have some central thing on top of which everything else is sort of built, right? It's not like, oh, we've gone to finance and then we'll do this and then we'll do this. It's kind of like organically built on top of each other. So, which is why one of the criticisms of Tata Neu is that, okay, the different services are just like, okay, a random bunch of, companies just meshed together. But the point of competition that you said, Srikeit, is pretty interesting, because if you look at the West, which is, that's technology central, right? You don't really have a super app over there. You really don't have, while there is big tech dominance, and we've spoken about that on the show several times before, there really is no one key, like major app, right? Even though like Google has so much of our lives, even for people who think about it, like even the most ardent Google fan over there is likely to have an iPhone or likely to buy stuff off Amazon or something. There's no one company that owns everything. And I guess that's a good thing in a way, because you really don't have a super app. In fact, the app, the company that is touted to be a super app, or I'm hearing rumors around it being a super app, is a surprising one. It's Uber. And Uber kind of like wants to be the place for delivery. But even then, it's just delivery. There are rumors that Airbnb might start getting into flight ticketing as well, which seems like a very organic extension of what it does. So that could be a super app. But then again, you're solving only for super app.
And so here there are two interesting points. One being that, and both coming from the Southeast Asia space. One is that while, like you said, the app the closest to being a super app in the West being Uber was like completely killed in Southeast Asia. In fact, it was killed and acquired by Grab, and it completely no longer exists in Southeast Asia anymore, because they just could not compete with Grab, which is surprising, which is actually a surprising story compared to how like normally things go. Like a global company comes to the region and then they eat up the local companies. This was the other way around. Like they were acquired, like Uber's asset in Southeast Asia were acquired by Grab.
Yeah, same thing in China, right? Didi acquired Didi or Didi, however they acquired. Why is that though? Is that just a matter of business going wrong, or did they not understand the market?
China is either your brains or your signature will be on that contract. So China is different. I don't know about Malaysia. Yeah.
Malaysia. Let's talk about Malaysia. Wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that might be very true.
That is an incredible
China.
line, Naren. That is
Amazing.
an incredible
What a line. Yeah.
Incredible line by Naren and an indelible line on the contract.
Well, yeah, one way or the other. In Southeast Asia, the scene was with Uber. Grab actually as a service, as a cab provider and all that stuff, had, if you just take the core service, which was a ride-hailing service, had a much better driver network, much more reliable. So it was basically on service quality, and Uber was just catching up all the time. And I think that's where, that's what. So first is the quality, service quality and the robustness of their network. And then the hustle of the founders to actually go to someone like an Uber and say, hey, you guys are struggling over here. Let us just work out a deal right now. Right. That also kind of worked out for them.
It's also one of those two-sided market things, right? So there are markets which are two-sided, such as, cab hailing or things like that, where you need a lot of cabs and those cabs need a lot of users. So it's very difficult to break in once that has happened. So there's an enormous first mover advantage in two-sided markets.
Yeah.
And in order for a later entrant to break into the two-sided market thing, it needs an extraordinary amount of it. So at some point of time, they must have just judged it as hopeless and just bailed out. It's quite possible.
So, and the other aspect also that I wanted to highlight with the Southeast Asia angle is what the pandemic ended up doing was forcing certain brands to become super apps, right? Brands that did not want to be super apps. So the one example of that is AirAsia. So AirAsia, based in Malaysia, was purely an airline service. There's Tony Fernandez handling his airline service in his own way. What the pandemic did was, because it completely killed the airline business, they actually ventured out into their pay services. They got into hotel bookings. They got into travel bookings. They got into they developed their wallet in some way, and therefore then developed an entire super app ecosystem under that. So it's not just doesn't mean that a super app is created when business is going well, but sometimes pivoting when your business is going badly actually ends up creating super apps.
Yeah. And a counter example to that is what happened to Uber in the West, where they actually make more money from their food delivery rather than from their ride hailing during the pandemic. And we don't know how that's going to go right now. It seems kind of poignant that they got out of Uber Eats in India just before the pandemic actually happened. Could have been a completely different story if they chose to stick on. But so it's kind of interesting, right? And the reason why we're giving this little prologue as to what a super app is, because Tata launched an app earlier this month, which is called Tata Neu, NEU, for all those who want to check it out. It's been on the cards for a long time. It's been, in fact, Srikeit, I have the Tata Super app to thank for my ridiculously expensive headphones. And I'll tell you why, because so this Tata Super app has been rumored for a while right now, and the rumors were because one, Tata was generally getting more digital in life, sort of realizing that, hey, just because TCS is there, we need the rest of the organization also to come up. So it's generally been getting more digital, and it's been acquiring a lot of consumer facing businesses like Soulful, Cult Fit for fitness, a Big Basket for online grocery, 1mg for and all these happened in such a rapid in a rapid span of time, while Reliance was doing its own thing, swooping up Urban Ladder and a whole bunch of NetMeds is there and all that. So it seemed like, okay, these guys are building up to something, right? And then there was a new division called Tata Digital that was, so all the signs are pointing in the right direction. So one funny thing happened one day, and I very, very rarely do this. I get into the forum section of Money Control to see how one of the Tata stocks are doing and what people are talking about. Again, I very rarely do this. I hardly ever go into this. I don't understand many of these things. Sometimes it's just fun to go and see people ranting about a stock or something like that. And then somebody said, TTML is going to do extremely well because Tata is coming out with a super app. And I thought, okay, that seems like a reasonable assumption. At that point of time, TTML, which was Tata Teleservices Maharashtra Private Limited, was trading at some 4 rupees or something, 4 or 2 rupees. It was very crazy. I'm like, well, sure, like swoop up some 1,000 of these. Let's see what happens, right? And usually when I do these things, nothing happens. Maybe appreciates by 20% over a couple of years, and that's about it. This thing, I kid you not, was going up 5%, 5%, 5%, hitting upper circuit for almost 1.5 months in a row. And I was like flabbergasted. I genuinely did not know what to do. Do I exit? Do I take whatever I have right now? At the end of it, I must have put whatever thousands. I basically covered my headphone expenses, and I did not buy cheap. I did not buy cheap headphones. These were like six-figure headphones I'm talking about. So I have the Tata Superapp to thank for that. The stock, by the way, went up even more after that. I would have made like close to 5 or 6 lakhs if I had chosen to keep my money in. But that was completely based on the rumor. Just the rumor that this thing is going to happen. Anyway, that a little thing aside. So yeah, the Tata Super app launched to much fanfare a couple of weeks back. I don't know if you guys have actually tried. Have you tried it? Have you downloaded it? Have you?
No,
tried
I
it?
have not.
Actually, no. I'm just going to do it right after this.
Yeah.
Show.
Wow. You're going to do it right now. We're going to get live reactions. Actually, actually kind of nice to do. Should have given you guys homework. So here's the thing. When you open up the app, right, you will find all their services over there. Obviously, like you will find order grocery, get fitter, basically all the different services that they have, you'll find them over here. You'll find electronics, which is Chroma. And once you go through this, you just like the appreciation for Tata as a business, as like what they've managed to do. Like, they started off with steel, but everything else. They have luxury, which is Tata Click, which is niche e-commerce store. They have fashion, which they own Westside, Trent, and all those brands as well. They have hotels, which is the Taj chain. Flights, which is AirAsia, and now this thing Vistara and Air India as well now. Eat and drink, you can order from exactly 2 places, which is one, Starbucks, because Tata is the franchisor for them in India, and of course you have the Taj restaurant. So in case you have a craving for something super expensive or a coffee, you can order from the app, nothing else. Then you have health, which is 1mg. You have entertainment, which is Tata Play, which is what Tata Sky used to be. And then you have a weird little box called Crick at New. It's clever. Crick, CRIC at New. And that's because they're just playing on the fact that Tata is a sponsor of the IPL. And that's pretty much about it. So it's all these things put together. So, and when you guys download the app, you will see this as well. They've got their own UPI thing going for them as well. They have introduced a loyalty thing called New Coins and all that.
So
now here's the thing.
This is something weird.
First reaction. Yeah, go for it.
So before even I give a whistle reaction, this is something that a little bit terrified me in some way. I enter my name and email ID for setting up my account and all that stuff. And it says my account is already in use. And I was like, I have never set up any account on Tata Neu or anything to do with Tata before. So I have heard of this phenomenon where people kind of use your email IDs to set up a whole bunch of accounts, especially with poor verification counts accordingly. And so clearly, and now that I logged into my account, it shows that I have already been in this account for a while or something like that. So
I think what might have happened, and I've heard of this happening, is that you might have given your email ID to one of these many services. Like you might have either created an account on BigBasket, or you might have, when you were buying a watch from Titan, you would have given your the same.
It may very well. You're right. It may very well be. I have a Tata 1mg account.
Yeah, so that's what. So it might pull it. So I wouldn't be surprised if you find your address also over there. So yeah, that's the thing, right? So the onboarding, like you said, is a little creepy, and what you spend.
Oh yeah, they have my address and everything. Yeah,
there we go.
They have everything.
Yeah. So a little creepy.
Yeah,
but what else? React to the app. Live reacts you're getting.
It's interesting. I mean, yes, there are a lot of functions that are useful. Like so far, I mean, honestly, from the services that they provide, the only one that I really use is Tata 1mg, which is the health app, the prescription stuff. And the other one is, like, on occasion, I have used the Tata hotels situation. But besides that, I mean, honestly, if I was to come from my perspective first, the other super apps. So, I mean, if they have BigBasket, which is also something that I use, which is not something that is alien to me. And the fact that they're importing addresses and all that, it seems like it would be something I may use at a later point of time.
Sure.
But it isn't something that, I mean, to migrate from one super app to another, you really need a high bar of like a big carrot out there. I mean, there is.
So one thing that I can see is travel, air travel. Everyone gives loyalty points on credit cards for miles. What do they call them? And they can leverage that. And people do make buying decisions for amazingly small things. So you can literally have like 0.5% or 0.25%, and people go enroll and.
I mean, but unfortunately in India, India is the land of super apps. Really, you have like a whole bunch of super apps.
What would you consider?
I mean,
Paytm for one.
Yeah, Paytm is one. Dunzo is another.
Dunzo is not really
How
a
is
super
Dunzo
app,
a super app?
I mean, it's got its delivery function. It's got a bunch of other services. I think it's got a courier function also inside it.
Yeah, but all of them are built. Yeah, I guess it's kind of closer to part of Gojek.
So this thing has everything. Yeah, it has grocery, electronics, mobiles, fashion, beauty, luxury, hotels.
Swiggy, again, I wouldn't call it a super app, right? I would. It's mostly delivery, right? There are three kinds of delivery. There's a food, of course. There's your Instamart, and then you have your equivalent of a Dunzo.
I get your point, but my thing is, for me, then maybe it comes down to the classification of how you define a super app.
Exactly, that's the other problem. There's no real definition for super
for
app.
me, like, I wouldn't call like, oh, you need to have, if any app is offering, say, for me, up to 2 or more divergent services, they are coming into the category of a super app, right? They are trying to do.
That's an extremely liberal definition.
So that's how I look at this particular thing, because see, for someone like a Swiggy to have gone from food delivery to having a Swiggy Genie option, which is a person-to-person delivery option, to having a Instamart option. Now it's all delivery based. But they are now doing inventory stocking. They are doing, and they also have their own wallet at this point of time, right? And actually, one marker for me, in some ways, is having, and also one marker of a super app in some ways. There are certain services that actually accept money from Swiggy wallets, which have nothing to do with Swiggy.
Fair enough.
So that somehow comes across as a marker to me in some way. So some of these services, so if I look at this, something like in India, the one thing that has happened because of stuff like Paytm is that in India, value has become such a deep thing that the only thing that really attracts anyone or mass adoption for a new super app is deep discounting. Deep discounting. Deep discounting is the only surefire way of getting people on board.
Not necessarily. So hear me out on this. They have got something called new coin, right? So let's say you get a new coin on purchase of groceries, which you're going to do in any case. You need a couple of thousand rupees worth of groceries regardless. And if you buy it on new, you can use that 25 rupees or whatever against your next Air India ticket purchase. Why wouldn't I do that? Why would I go to, I don't know, whichever other grocery app, Amazon Pantry, for example?
From my perspective, what Paytm has historically done for a long time is that instead of going with, so now they've started doing this cashback points business, which was there, but when they were in the adoption phase, the thing that brought a lot of success to Paytm and is also bringing a lot of success to something like an Amazon Pay is the fact that they give people cold hard cashback. Right. And they give hard cashbacks, and their pay is applicable. So I can use an Amazon Pay when I'm purchasing anything outside the Amazon ecosystem as well. I can use a Paytm for anything, like it's massively adopted everywhere else. And so that allows me to venture outside the ecosystem. So naturally, Indians don't like being cloistered inside the ecosystem. So if you're giving me a whole bunch of coins, yes, there is going to be adoption because of the existing services. So the coin business is not going to attract massive number of adoption over existing apps that are first mover advantage. That is my perspective.
Why not?
I mean, that's where, because of the fact that it's not hard cash.
App A doesn't give you anything. App B gives you small thing, but something more than zero. So why wouldn't you take App B?
No, but App A is not, it's giving me hard cash. Like a cred, for example.
This is what I think, right? This is what I think. I think freebies are better than hard cash because cred gives you. So I recently paid, I got 5 rupees or 7 rupees or something. 5 rupees or 7 rupees doesn't make any difference to me.
No, but it does make a huge difference to a student, right? And that's
a
where
student or a deal hunter, right?
Or a
student
deal hunter. Yeah. I mean, it's the kick of that. And the way they craft these offers are also like Paytm does this thing, you'll get up to 50 rupees cashback. So you have that thing that, I'll go get up to 50 rupees cashback. The average cashback value is 5 to 7 rupees. Right. But you have the opportunity to win a 50 rupee cashback. So it's all about behavioral science crafting.
So I'll give you my perspective on this. And I agree partially with what Naren had to say, which is if you make some, say, let's call them loyalty points or new coins or whatever they are from Big Basket, you should be able to redeem that against Air India. And I think that as a use case is nice. I think that as a functionality is nice. It keeps people married to the Tata group, makes you prefer Tata services no matter which category you are going to, because you always have that sort of, that's always, in fact, I've always thought that, hey, I've bought stuff from Titan maybe 5 times in the last 10 years, but it'd be very cool if I could use that against, say, my next,
Big
whatever
purchase.
Big basket purchase or whatever. In that sense, this kind of works, right? The common digital spine / common loyalty program, if you want to call it that, consolidating one user profile across all Tata services, that kind of makes sense to me. I kind of buy that. What I don't agree with and what I have a problem with is the app itself. I'm not quite sure whether this app has a reason to exist. And the reason I say that is, see, suppose there are multiple use cases, right? So suppose I'm a heavy Big Basket user, right? We spend like all our groceries, like about 10K of our monthly expenses goes via Big Basket, right? So we are heavy Big Basket users, and we've been early adopters since 2013 or 14, whenever it came out. Now, the thing is, I am not going to go to Big Basket through Tata New, right? It doesn't offer me anything. If anything, it offers me a slightly inferior thing, because I just clicked it right now. It opens up on the app itself, and I now need to log in via that. It can't, all those sort of things. Yeah. So it provides me a clunkier experience. Now, I am happy using my native Big Basket app itself.
Yeah.
Similarly for everything else. Why would I, if I wanted to work out, I would open up Cult Fit? Why would I open up Tata New and then go to Cult Fit?
Exactly.
So that is use case. Yeah. So that is number one, right? If I'm a fan of any of these services, I don't even need to be a fan. If I'm habituated to using these apps, I'll just go to the app itself. It seems to be a needless step in the middle. That's point number one. Point number two, I get the Tata point of trying to consolidate all the services together, but some of them just don't make sense to me. Like, for example, why would I want to restrict my food purchase to 2 places, and that too something as diverse as 1 Starbucks and 2 Tata hotels? Great. I might be that much of a fan of Tata hotels or Starbucks, or for that matter, Air India, enough to use only those services. But then again, goes back to my first point. Then I will just use the Starbucks app. I will just use the Tata hotels app or something like that. This seems to solve neither case to me. And to be very frank, if you look at some of those services together, the person who is going to be booking Taj hotels exclusively, I don't think is a Big Basket user. I feel that's so it's a combination of these things. See, there are some arguments that have said, "Arey, look at what Tata pulled off" and something. Agreed. Like, this is a tremendous feat of engineering. It must not. As people who have worked in agencies before, I'm just getting like stressed thinking about what the Tata digital team must have gone through to put this app together. Just imagine coordinating between 10, 15 departments. Some of them are new age companies that want nothing to do with legacy Tata. Some of them are legacy Tata that want nothing to do with the internet. Putting all of these together on one platform, no doubt about it, it's a feat of engineering and project management.
But to me,
it doesn't mean that the app needs to exist because of that. Just because it takes a lot of effort.
Building on what you said and taking all the benefits of this particular ecosystem, instead of an app, what they probably just needed was a new wallet.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And a loyalty program, like Naren's point, just tying it all together.
A loyalty program. All you need is like a new wallet system. You have the same coin system, whatever is there. The app solely functions to be a wallet, right? It's a wallet function. And all you do is over there, you have a bunch of coins that you accumulate whenever you purchase from. And that standard goes across every Tata app. And that standard, once it's used, so for example, you purchase 10,000, you get 100 new coins or whatever, and you get the 100 new coins, which you can use in Tata 1mg. You can use any other service that you want, a Tata service that you want, because the new wallet is a fixture across every one of these apps. You have invested so much in their UX. People are comfortable with them. They are regular users of these apps. Instead of taking away from there, and like you said, this whole clunky signing into your Big Basket from this thing, it's just that itself is so clunky. Like, and one thing is like the cardinal rule of UX is never take people away from a UX they are comfortable with.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And it makes me think, what if, say, okay, so this is what exists right now. I have both Tata Neu and Big Basket on my phone right now. And what happens when the Big Basket UX gets updated tomorrow? Does that reflect over here as well? Does this mean now every time any of these apps has to update, they have to come away? Or does this mean that there's a grand master plan to do away with all these apps? And now Tata Neu becomes the gateway for any of these services. If you have to use Cult, you need to go through this. If you need to go to Big Basket, you have to go through the Tata Neu app. That seems to be...
Honestly, that would be such a massive business risk to take. In some way, I mean, with, say, for example, people are Big Basket. Let's just take Big Basket for that matter. The pandemic has pushed so many people into online ordering that they have not moved out of it now. And Big Basket, because of its first mover advantage, is there. You give 1 day of downtime on Big Basket, you see how many people go on to Dunzo and every other app there is.
Absolutely.
And these are people you will never recover again.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys read this, but a couple of weeks back, Nutgraph by the Ken had put out this pretty good analysis of the app. And it all boiled down. I mean, a lot of the things that we said are echoed over there. But it all boiled down to one thing, which is, it seems like the core user of this app is basically a deal hunter, right? There is nothing else really over here. There's Tata Neu, whatever. The only advantage possibly of using Big Basket or using this over Big Basket natively is the fact that you get those 5% new coins or something like that. I don't know whether you get the coins if you buy over there or whatever, which is what we are espousing. And Praveen's point when he wrote that piece was, this is the worst possible core TG to have, deal hunters.
Exactly.
And actually what validates is, if you open up the app right now, it just feels like it's just offers everywhere. And I understand that makes sense in some situations, but I feel it severely diminishes the value of an Indian hotels, which is a Taj. When you're saying book, the first thing that you're saying is book 50% off at the Taj or something of the sort. So very clearly speaking to a kind of audience, I guess. That's another problem that I have with the app.
And that's where, I mean, trying to communicate premium through a super app is also a major issue. I don't know of any, I don't know of any example, and I'm sure there must be people or listeners who may have ideas about this, but I don't know of any super premium products being pushed through super apps, where I think premium apps, like say for example, even if you take from a groceries point of view, I don't see a Nature's Basket getting integrated into a Big Basket or anything. Nature's Basket kind of looks like a standalone in its own way. And as the super premium grocery brand in India.
It was a Godrej brand, right, at the end of the day. Like, how many people got that?
Yeah, so I mean, the at the moment, and when you look at any kind of super premium kind of stuff, like even when you take like, okay, Tanishq isn't super premium jewelry per se, but even putting a premium category like Tanishq onto a super app, kind of like, I feel diminishes the value of like your elite jewelry in some way. Like, because again, like you said, if your core demographic is a deal hunter, then you are not really catering to this. Then you're really killing the premium in every which way. Like you said with the Taj, that's what's happening.
Yeah. You know, all this put aside, right? I have one theory. I wrote about it in my newsletter. All these factors, I understand all of them. Okay, it's clunky putting them together, deal hunter, whatever. I still can make a case for the super app of putting all these disparate services together by just saying this. Okay, your core audience is a Tata fan, right? And that story makes sense to me by saying, okay, Tata is such a storied company. Every Indian loves Tata, right? Every Indian has some association or the other. In the last episode we recorded, we found out that Naren worked at a Tata company for some time. Disclaimers, a couple of Tata companies are my clients as well. Please don't kick me out after hearing this episode. But everybody has good things to say about the Tata, has owned Tata stock at some point of time. So like, it's such a storied company which has been associated with India itself, India and its history, the whole Taj, Jamshed Tata, then the Air India thing. So it's such a storied company. So I can imagine that, okay, what if we play to that? What if we say, hey, here is finally India's super app that's bringing so many of these brands that you know and love together under one umbrella. It doesn't make business sense, but it makes narrative sense, right? To me, that was a story that could have been told. I would have happily bought into something like that, but I don't see that reflected anywhere. If you open up the app right now, it doesn't look like this is a 100-year-old legacy conglomerate. There are no stories anywhere. There's no Jamshed Tata. There's no note by Ratan Tata anywhere, dude.
Yeah.
There's nothing of that sort. There's no note from Chandra for that matter. There is no note of, oh, Tata has built this nation. There's nothing like that. So very clearly, that's an angle that they're not looking to take at all. And to me, and this is my conclusion for that piece that I wrote, which is, this seems like a missed opportunity to me. I feel like if this app had positioned itself not as like this clusterfuck of apps together and get these new coins for whatever reason, hey, India's super app has finally come. I feel like there's a larger story to be told over there rather than saying get 5% off on Chroma charges if you buy them through the app.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think Tata as a brand for India, and I mean, I saw this, I kind of was thinking about this, especially when Tata repurchased Indian with Air India. I mean, they are uniquely poised, and when they became the sponsors of the IPL and all, they're uniquely poised as being India's brand. That is in every which way, like it stands for all those qualities that actually are moving away from India. Like, for example, Reliance is now, okay, obviously it's like moved into a certain way, but Tata is famously non-nepotistic in its own way. It is such a trusted name across the board. It is one of those companies that has miraculously, almost in this country, remained largely scandal free, right?
Yeah.
So, and that is truly miraculous in a country like ours. So in that context, I feel there is a little, if you were to consider me a brand manager, and that's the space I come from professionally, as a brand manager or someone who's a custodian of the larger Tata brand, I would be a little trigger shy, trigger shy with like Tata working or playing around with the Tata brand in a cavalier way. I understand that you need to kind of move to progress, but Tata as a brand requires a bit more thinking, a little bit more careful handling, and there are certain very, very storied branded elements that need to be incorporated in every aspect of Tata. And so
I'm sure this discussion has happened a lot of times within the Tata
group itself,
circles group itself. So it'll be awesome if at some future date a story really emerges that that gives some insight into what might have happened. Because I agree entirely with you. It's really frittering away the value of what is Tata. Tata is really very, very respected name, as you said, unusual and incredibly unusual for India in being extremely clean and things like that. And none of that is reflected at this in that. So it must be a conscious decision.
I'm sure it was a conscious decision. So, but here's what I think, Naren. I just have a feeling that this app was willed into existence. I don't think there really was a need for something like this to be there. So I think this must have been somebody's passion project. This must have been like Reliance is doing so many things, so we need to have something to counter it. I hate to say it because that's I mean
something like that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be very honest. Like, this app, to my mind, has actually kind of detrimental to the Tata brand, at least in my eyes, because it seems like this is not the Tata way of doing things. It's not polished. It's like there's a saying about Apple, right? Apple will never rush into a market. Apple will wait for others to muck around. It will release when the time is right for it, it's not the first smartphone to come out. It wasn't the first MP3 player to come out. It was definitely not the first computer or all that to come out. But when it comes out, it's ready. It comes out with a product that's ready, with an ecosystem that's ready, with kick-ass design. No apology. It's not going to be like, hey, we're coming out with a new format. We want our first 1,000 early adopters to muck around with it and tell us what went wrong so that we can fix it in iteration number 5. No, that's not the Apple way of doing things. And I always felt that's kind of like the Tata way of doing things as well. When they get into something, they get into things, and they've pioneered markets. Like, I have insane respect for how Tata has handled brands before. Like, on one hand, they have something staid like Tata Steel. On the other hand, they had Fast Track, which is the edgiest brand in the country and probably still is for the longest period of time. You had on one hand, you had that values more than steel, that campaign. At the other hand, you had Fast Track coming out of the two lesbians coming out of the closet. Like, it blew my mind that it's the same company. And for all its worth, the Tata Nano was, I mean, it didn't work
Yeah,
very
yeah.
well, but what a risk the guy took.
Yeah.
Enormous. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
so
was a great concept. It was a brilliant
It was a great
concept.
Yeah, it was a great
Yeah.
concept. At least it made a lot of people near near the place where I studied at Maika. That village became very rich because the Sanand factory came up.
Sanand
close
factory
by.
came up there.
Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, if we will just consolidate all these points together, essentially there is no reason for this kind of thing to exist. While there is definitely a case to be made for a Tata-wide sort of like a loyalty program of sorts, and I think that really is an opportunity miss. Just imagine like being a lifelong Tata customer, like the person who's buying from Big Basket today will end up being at Indian hotels tomorrow. I feel there definitely is that sort of thing, but it's not something that needs to be public to the world or something. But yeah, anyway, that's just like, that's what my point on that was really.
No, I mean, I completely agree with that
I
approach.
feel that, sorry, just one last thing on that.
Go
I
on.
eventually feel that usage of this app is going to die down because it doesn't offer any tangible need for it to be on people to use it on the app itself. I feel eventually whatever this 5% etc. people are getting off new coins or whatever will eventually migrate to the individual services by themselves, either because of internal pressure or just because it makes more business sense. I hope it doesn't, though. I really hope that something comes out of this app, because if there's one company that I would like to have a super app in India, it would be Tata, because I trust them to pull it off, and two, because they have all these different the other thing that really annoys me about this app is the missed chances for integrations between various services. Like imagine I'm a heavy Cult user and I'm a heavy Big Basket user. Just imagine the potential synergy between those. Like one thing on the app that they've done really nicely, which I saw somewhere, is hidden somewhere. They've got a great editorial team, by the way, which has written out lots of crazy articles and stuff like that. But that's hidden in the app with all the noise that's around it. You go down, you find things like how to make, say, like a vegan chicken tikka masala or some recipe like this. And you read the recipe and you have this sort of buy ingredients. And when you click that, it opens a Big Basket within the Tata new app, and it has all the ingredients already curated for you. This is a feature I wished existed on Big Basket itself. Now you see, features like this make that app interesting. Now just imagine if you're on Cult and you say, oh, you're trying to lose weight, or you're trying to go keto. Fine, click over here and look at our Big Basket selection of keto foods, or this is what you should be ordering from Starbucks. Now that to me makes sense. Who knows, maybe that's version 2, but
maybe so. And on that, and in that specific point also, what I feel is here is, I mean, again, deferring to the greatness of what Tata has done and how they've been pioneers in so many fields and kind of like moved before the market knew what was happening in some ways, had that mover advantage in some way. Maybe they've got the plot all figured out here. Like they know what they're doing over here. It's just some, maybe at the minimum, the clunkiness maybe just growing pains in some way, or they might be, this very well might be beta testing on some level, where they're doing like a live public beta testing in some way, because of for the volumes they deal with. And so that's where they might be at, and this may just be their most successful project ever. So
this might end up being, although it seems to be a very clunky way of starting it out. I had super high expectations also, because they'd just become the sponsors of the IPL. I was like, wow, just imagine all this coming together, a great ad campaign during the IPL. It just seemed like it was perfect. And I think maybe because of high expectations, I think it was a bit of a let down. Although I am not uninstalling it, I have disabled notifications, because dear God, that thing wants you to buy stuff from it.
But I'll tell you what this feels like. Like I was just grading some assignments for my students for the course that I was doing, and what they had done was, it was a group assignment, and what they had done was, instead of doing there were 4 parts to the assignment, and instead of doing them all together, they divided the 4 parts into the 4 people to do.
4 people,
So I was like, oh, section A is amazing. Section B is okay. Section B is awful. And section D is also okay. So I'm like, it's like literally like schizophrenic. I don't know what to expect from each section. They're like written by 4 different people. So parts of this launch seem like that. Like they got the timing right. They got the placement right. They got the media angles of it right. All of those aspects are right. The UX is terrible. some of the integration aspects are terrible. So it's like literally like 4 people have written 4 sections of this particular assignment.
Do you know this thing called Conway's law?
No.
Conway's law is beautiful. So I'm reading it from Wikipedia. It's also referenced in the Ken piece, where I heard it from. Conway's law is an adage that states organizations design systems that mirror their own communication structure. And this is what it formally is. And it was beautifully mentioned by the guy who Praveen had interviewed for that new piece. You should really read it. It's beautiful writing. And I think it was Rahul from the design studio Obvious who said Tata basically shipped their org chart for this app, which makes so much sense. And to your point, Srikeit, of like 4 students writing 4 different parts. If you look at the app a little closely, it feels that way because you can see it almost feels like the different offers. There is no one unified design language throughout the app. It's almost like 10 different companies were asked to submit 10 different banners or offers for this, and all of them use their own fonts. So it genuinely feels it's a khichdi of an app.
Yeah.
But hey, khichdi tastes good.
It does. And Indians love khichdi. That's the more important part.
So you're right. Maybe they've got this all figured out. Maybe, part of me wants to believe that and say that apart from, the California Indians like us, maybe this is what people want. Maybe they want to see chaos in an app. Maybe they want to just imagine this. Here's an angle I never thought of.
On that. Oh, go on. Finish, please.
No, so here's an angle. So I am thinking, a Taj user will feel so the big basket is there on my app. What if that Taj is just there as like a shiny toy for the person who's using Big Basket? What if the person who's using Big Basket will I'm shopping from an app where Taj hotels are also there. Yeah. So what if I wouldn't be surprised if Tata is actually thinking from that angle, and at the end of the day, basically what I'm saying is run and buy TTML stocks. You may have electrostatic headphones in your future.
Yeah, but on that point, what also and based on the aspect of chaos in an app, right? There was something that struck with me over there. So as again in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia especially, there is no Amazon. The equivalent over there is Lazada. So Lazada and the one way to describe Lazada as an app is chaos. All right, it is the most ridiculous app ever. Like where once you search for something, like I honestly saved a lot of money because Lazada is an app. When you search for something,
actively discourages you from buying it.
Yeah, no, there's a good chance. Like, say for example, I search for Liverpool jersey on the Lazada app. It's got such bad natural in-app search engine optimization that you will get like a knockoff that some dude has painted in his basement above the official page selling it. All right. So I'm just like, I don't know what I'm clicking on, whether it's genuine, not genuine, whether it'll come with the letters falling off or with like a Manchester United jersey instead of a Liverpool jersey. I don't know. Right. And so it was absolute chaos of an app because there was also in-app selling. Like anybody could register to be a seller and a whole bunch of people were registering to be sellers. So, but so that's what I was just like, I missed India tremendously because I was like, oh my God, the Amazon app or even the Flipkart app is it's so systematic. It's so well laid out. And it was also true of a lot of banking apps in Southeast Asia. Like Indian apps have tremendous UX and UI. So that's where I feel like this is very uncharacteristic of the most Indian of apps to be chaos. Because Indian apps are famously extremely well designed.
Wow.
Because they have been designed
for
volume.
Insight.
They have been designed for volume. They have been designed for people who are technologically challenged. They are designed for people who are first-time internet users, first-time smartphone users. And so they have to be intuitive. And there's a lot of work that goes into UX.
By the way, that's a different topic altogether. And I would love to explore that. And I've actually read some articles on this on the hard copy and things, which is how apps are designed, how icons are designed so that anybody can understand them. Save icon we understand it, but for many people, forget generation, like they haven't. Anyway, I think we have spoken way too much about this super app without even using it properly. I do have one final thing though. This weirdly enough has nothing to do with the Tata app, but in the spirit of mashing things together, I actually want to end with a profundity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this was sent to us by one of our oldest listeners, longest listening listeners. Not sure about his age. This is Satvi Tripathi on Twitter. And somehow, guys, I have a feeling we have done this before sometime. I mean, this is extremely WhatsAppable. So this is a did you know sort of thing. And it has 2 ears, okay? Ears, the human ears, like merged together to form. You can imagine like it roughly looks like a heart. Right?
Oh.
So you know where I'm going with this. And it reads, when the 2 ears are put side by side, it forms the shape of a heart. Interestingly, the word ear sits right in the middle of the word heart. And in case people didn't get it, they've even put in brackets H-ear-T. The ear is the way to the heart. Again, not sure who their ENT is, but again, not sure which ENT they visited still. So if you want someone's heart, learn to listen to them. And it helpfully ends with the heart emoji as well. Thank you, Satvi, for that. So in the spirit of mashing things together to create something that's poignant yet weird, that's a great way to end the episode on Tata New.
Fantastic. Superb. Yeah. So fantastic. So Naren, you want to take us out?
Yeah.
Stay super.
Yes. Stay safe. Stay
super integrated mishmash. Super. Stay super.
Yeah,
sounds about right. Stay super. Yeah, stay super, guys.
Yeah, stay super and stay simplified.
By the way, I want to tell all the people who are listening in today, we have just completed 2 extremely serious episodes, Tata New, which you're listening to today. Last week, you would have heard Srikait's episode on the Sri Lankan crisis. We are not going to have a hat trick because we recorded the episode that's going to come out next week before this. Just brace is all I can say. Do not listen to it while operating heavy machinery. Ideally, listen to it when you're under the influence. What you're under the influence is completely up to you.
Yeah.
All we can say is just keep a tub of ice cream in the fridge.
Yeah, sounds
we
about
will
right.
see you next week. Sounds about right. And Tony will be there for that. See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Habit Coach, Ashton talks to Avantika Sinha, managing partner, leadership trainer, and coach at Stillwater Consulting. She shares 5 key mindsets that we all must imbibe in ourselves. The Simblified gang look into the European Union's recent regulations to rein in tech companies. On the Filter Coffee Podcast, Karthik speaks with author Vasanthi about her new book, Ganga's Choice. On the Life Manifesto, Zarina decodes 7 overrated concepts that we must do away with. And on Football Twaddle, Saru and Yash discuss how Arsenal always disappoints in the season. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, please don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And remember, you can always check us out on YouTube. We have a number of channels. You can go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube to take a look at what those channels are. We're also doing a small listener survey to understand how you respond to our shows and the advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It really helps us build better shows for you and understand what you're looking for from advertising and what we can talk to advertisers about who you are. Please go to ivmpodcast.com/survey. It really would help us out. Thank you so much. And finally, would like to thank our sponsors for the network this week, SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.